ESPN 1000, Tom Waddle, the former Chicago Bear, joins us now. Tom, before we talk Bears, did you ever walk into a bank with a $9 million check from the Bears?
I did. Each season I was there for 6 years. Yes. I made one. Not to divulge too much information, but in 6 years in the league from 89, I retired in 95, and I started for 3.5 years. I made $1.4 million total, Paul.
Wow.
But now wait a second. That's a good start. Don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative. I'm very thankful. But I'm going to be working until I'm 75 or 80 because I have 4 daughters and a lot of bills. So,
and all going to very nice private schools, too, I understand.
Yeah.
So, local reaction. John Fox, head coach of the Bears, what are you hearing?
I think for the most part, everyone is in favor of it. I think this team desperately needed somebody that will come in and provide leadership, discipline, and accountability, because I think those commodities were missing the last 2 years, and certainly not to speak badly about Mark Trestman as he's now gone, but if you talk to different players that were on this team, especially last year, I think they felt there really wasn't a presence from the head coach in the locker room, or more importantly in the meeting room and on the field on a daily basis. So, John Fox comes in with a great resume, has been in these situations before and taken teams that have struggled and gotten them back on track and made them relevant. Certainly has been to the postseason, taken 2 teams to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's any guarantee, guys, that, they're going to go from last to first, but I think they become relevant again. And there's no guarantee with whoever they would have hired, but I think it's gone over well here in Chicago, and I certainly I think it's a very good hire for this organization.
Certainly, Tommy, he has a very good resume he brings to Chicago. He also has a couple of major issues. What's a bigger problem for him to fix right away? The defense that's been a sieve, or his quarterback, Jay Cutler?
Well, I think that it's got to be the defense, and that's not to minimize the issues that they've had at quarterback. But look, last season, dead last in points allowed. The year before, they didn't have a pass rush, and they couldn't stop the run, and they struggled to keep people out of their end zone. I think that's the bigger overall issue. It's hard to say that, though, considering that the quarterback's the most important position in all of professional sports. And whether it's Jay or somebody else, they've got to have somebody that's more efficient and takes care of the football better at that position. But there are 2 really big problems. I think Ryan Pace, the new GM, and John Fox, the new coach, at this particular time, they've got to continue to fill out John's staff. And then I think the next decision will be what direction they'll go with Jay Cutler. And right now they haven't given us any indication in what direction that will be.
Tom, Brian Westbrook. And speaking of Jay Cutler, how far can this team, and they put a lot of guys around him, Forte, Bennett, Marshall outside. How far can this team go with Jay Cutler being their quarterback?
Brian, that's a great question. And Jay is public enemy number 1 in Chicago at this particular time. And, he hasn't played well. I think the most important things that you have to expect out of your quarterback, obviously, you guys know, is you have to take care of the football. And if you create some adversity, you have to find a way to pull yourself out of a bad situation and continue to move forward. And Jay wasn't able to do that last year. Led the league in turnovers, and that's never a good thing. I think the new staff, and to take a step back to last year, I was always amazed that there was conversation about the coach doesn't trust the quarterback, he's not taking care of the football, and yet week in and week out, they would never, ever commit to balance in running the football. And I think that what you saw in Baltimore this year should be the blueprint. And Joe Flacco obviously has a better resume than Jay and has performed in the postseason. But last year, Joe Flacco threw more interceptions than touchdowns. They came in this year with Gary Kubiak, committed to running the football, took some of the responsibility away from Joe, and Joe had a much better season. And if Jay is the quarterback of this team next year, I would expect something similar, Brian. I would expect them to give the ball to Matt Forte more often, get Jay out on the edge, take advantage of his athletic ability, maybe cut the field in half, and just kind of make it an easier week in and week out game plan than it was. And the hope is that Jay can get you to the postseason. You're not going to win a Super Bowl because of Jay, but the hope has always been you can win a Super Bowl with Jay. So, again, there's been no indication, guys, on what direction they're going to go. They very may well decide that they're going to try and move Jay and move on from him. But my guess is
Do you, Tom, think that they would be better off doing that?
I don't, because of the contract. I think their best option is to try to make this work next year, draft a quarterback, and have a plan B. I'm not suggesting to you that Jay is going to, in a new system, be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and they'll go to the Super Bowl with him next year. But I don't know what kind of trade value he'll have out there. I don't think you can release him and pay him $15.5 million to go away. I think John Fox will probably, and my best guess is try to go with Jay this next season. If it works, talk about what 2016 has in store. But at the very least, have a plan B or a backup plan. So my guess is Jay, for the financial reasons, will probably be their quarterback next year.
Tom, you mentioned the Bears' defense needing to improve. What exactly does that defense need to improve at?
How much time do you have, Brian? Look, they really struggled to get to the quarterback in 2013. So they went out in free agency and they signed Lamar Houston, who, in my estimation, probably is more effective inside than outside. They brought in Willie Young, who had a very good year, who may be more of a situational pass rusher, and obviously Jared Allen, who they didn't get as much out of as they were expecting. They really need to get better at the linebacker position. They need another corner. Kyle Fuller, as a rookie, was very good this year. But Tim Jennings had a down 2014. Obviously, the safety position is something that has plagued them for years. So I think you can go across the board. They've got some solid players on the defensive line at this particular time, but their back seven needs a serious overhaul.
Tommy, before I let you go, I want to back up and follow up on one thing you said. You said in Chicago right now, Jay Cutler feels like public enemy number one. Is that because the Bears have been losing more than winning? Is it because of his interceptions or because of the personality and demeanor that he presents to the media?
I think it's probably a combination of all of it, Paul. At the end of the day, I want my quarterback to play his position to the best of his ability. I want him to win games. All the other stuff to me is ancillary, and some of it is noise. I think if you win, all the other things are overlooked. And it starts with taking care of the football. People forget 2013. He played well enough, albeit Josh McCown came in and played well when he was hurt, but he played well enough in that final game of the season to beat the Packers and actually move on to the postseason, but the defense let them down. You go back to 2010, and with Jay Cutler, they went to the NFC title game. He hasn't taken care of the football. He hasn't won more than he's lost, and ultimately, when you have a losing record, all of the other things become part of the equation. So I think it's a little bit of all.
Paul Burmeister and Brian Westbrook sitting in for Dan Patrick this morning here on the Dan Patrick Show, talking with former Chicago Bear wide receiver Tom Waddle of ESPN 1000 in Chicago. As a former wide receiver, what's your take on the story with the Patriots allegedly deflating footballs to enhance the passing game?
It's crazy, isn't it? I certainly, if there's less air in the ball, it's easier to catch. I do know that.
Really?
I mean, look, I don't have the biggest hands in the world. If a little bit of the air out, the heart of the football, I always thought, which would mean that there was more air in it, was harder to catch. I think if there's a little give to the football, it is a little bit easier to grip. With that said, this doesn't make any sense to me. Look, the Patriots are a horrible matchup for the Colts. The three previous times they played with Andrew Luck under center, the Patriots were 3-0 and won those games by an average of 26 points. I understand that the conditions were bad and the stakes were exceptionally high, but why would you take that chance or the risk knowing you had a favorable situation? It just didn't make any sense to me. But, if in fact it is proven that they did do something that was outside the boundaries of the rules, I think they should and they will be punished pretty severely.
Tom, I want to take you back to Jay Cutler one last time. It seemed like last year he lost the locker room. A lot of confidence, I think, in the players had in him was kind of gone. You heard a lot about the inner turmoil that was going on inside of the team. What will Jay Cutler need to do to regain the confidence of not only his teammates but also the new coaching staff?
That's a great question. I think first and foremost he's got to present the image that he's committed to the task, and I think that's been the case. I think over the course of time in Chicago, Jay's matured, takes his job very seriously. Working hard hasn't been the problem. It's just been the decision-making on game day. He's not going to be the leader that Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or others may be. I think he's going to have to be more of a lead-by-example guy, and by that I mean you have to play well, and you have to take care of the football and make the plays that you need to make from that position. I think that locker room was more affected by a lack of leadership from the head coach than it was any of the players. And look, if you acknowledge that I don't have a team full of strong leaders, then it's incumbent on the head coach to be the guy that everyone looks to. And I think that just wasn't a stable situation with Mark Trestman, and I think that problem will be solved with John Fox. But I think Jay's problems, most of them are all about taking care of the football and making plays and being the best quarterback on the field as opposed to being possibly the best leader in the room.
Hey, Tommy, no matter the venue, on the radio or having you sit by me at a desk, always good to talk football with you. We appreciate your time.
You got it, the Paul Burmeister Show. Have they already changed the name?
He had some enthusiasm to that call there, didn't he? No, they have not, Tommy.
Okay.
It's a good question, though. Talk to you soon, pal.
All right, guys. Be good.
Former Chicago Bear Tom Waddle of ESPN 1000 in Chicago.